split ends there, and I got you. Just having to cut that track short by a few seconds because my guest is waiting on the phone. So let's see if we can get Ryan O'Connell on to have a chat. Hopefully we've got Ryan O'Connell at the end of the phone. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm great. It's an absolute delight to talk to you this Friday morning. Thank you for sparing the time. Now, we're going to be talking to you about this fantastic challenge you've set yourself, which is to cycle to all 21 of the National League South football teams in aid of prostate cancer. Quite a challenge, that. But if it's all right with you, we'd like to find out a bit more about you, if it's okay, Ryan, and then we'll get into the subject at hand. So, first of all, you're in Crawley at the moment, or you live in Crawley. You might not be there at the moment. Is that where you originate from?
No, although I have lived here for a number of years. I think I moved here about 20 years ago, but I grew up in Kent, near Maidstone, so I'm a Gillingham fan, first and foremost for my sins. And went to school there, and I moved to Crawley about 20 years ago.
Yeah, I know Kent quite well. I used to live. I lived in various places in Kent. I lived in Cuxton. I lived in West Malling. I lived in Wateringbury. All those places. Many years ago now, though, Ryan. So fond memories of that area. And you're a Gillingham fan as well. And they're not doing too bad, are they?
Mixed season. Let's say it's a mixed season. That we're not doing too bad, but it's a long way from the glory years when we were in the Championship a number of years ago. So it's not quite as fun as it used to be, but it's still a good it's still good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're a Kentish lad, it's fair to say, and I presume you're educated there as well. Is that the case?
It depends on your definition of educated, but I certainly went to school there. I went to Maidstone Boys Grammar and did my A-levels there, and it was good. Really fond memories.
Yeah, good stuff. And I know you sort of work in football at the moment. We'll talk about that in a minute. But your earlier career, did you go to university, left there, get a job? What was the story there?
Yeah, so after doing my A-levels, I looked around for some courses to do at university. I actually considered doing football science at Liverpool John Moores University, and it's a real degree, but it's actually quite a difficult degree to get into. You have to have science at A-level and sports science, and to be perfectly honest, I didn't get the grades. So rather than sort of falling back on a generic degree that I might not have been interested in, I just went out and worked, and nothing particularly exciting, a lot of bartending and things like that. Really trying to sort of find my way. I eventually found my way, and I found a great job as a moral guardian for the Advertising Standards Authority.
Oh wow!
Investigating complaints about advertising, a real varied and interesting role in many respects, and I was there for about 5 years before eventually embarking on what is probably my sort of full-time career now, which is in learning technologies. It was a bit of a strange route to where I am today, I'd say.
Yeah, but that sounds very interesting. Sorting out complaints about advertising. I like that. That's another story I can talk to you about that some other time, maybe. But an interesting career. But now you do sort of work with or in football to a certain degree. You're working for Football Manager, which I believe is a game. I don't know anything about this, but you're a researcher. Head researcher, I think, for Football Manager. So Head researcher, yeah. Can you explain to our listeners about Football Manager and what that role is as far as Football Manager is concerned?
Yeah, so Football Manager is, it's definitely a phenomenon, and it goes. Some people will call it a game, other people will call it a simulation of football, and it can be either depending on how you want to play it. But it originates. It used to be called Championship Manager. It's still a very, very popular game. And really, the idea behind the game is to put yourself in the driving seat, put yourself in the seat of a manager of the club of your of your interest, basically. manage a team, sign players, and build a squad, and eventually try and make them as successful as possible. So obviously football being, probably the most popular sport in the world, this is a game that really sort of taps into that interest. And it's phenomenally detailed. So, I'm the head researcher for the National League South. That's the lowest playable league in England in the game.
Right.
But we've got leagues and we've got thousands of clubs and hundreds of thousands of players in our database from across the world, and a team, an army really, of researchers who research every club, every player, to get all the detail they can, whether it's data about their attributes or information about the club, who their rivals are, who their legends are, and all of that kind of stuff, to really build a really immersive picture for people to play. So that's why it's so incredibly popular.
Wow. And I assume, this research is ongoing, because, as soon as you've researched one particular club, a few weeks later things could change. They get different players in, or they've got a new manager, or, they're doing something or other. So it's a never-ending story.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It literally never stops. And this is one of the busiest periods for us at the moment, or we're just coming to the end of probably the busiest period. We've got Football Manager 2022 is coming out. It's coming out in November, 9th of November, I think. And so from a research perspective, we're just hitting our deadlines. We've got several deadlines coming up, by which we've got to finish all the data. So then we have what's called a data lock. So that's what will go into the game. But even after that deadline, as you say, Chris, things will keep changing, particularly actually in the National League South, where we don't have a transfer window. So transfers are constantly happening. I've just the other day, one of the teams in the division, they've had a change of manager. So these are the sorts of things. There's always a change of manager just before the deadline or around the deadline, which causes a little bit of stress, because we've got to go in, we've got to change the data, we've got to research a new manager, and make sure everything is accurate, so that the game, again, is as immersive as possible.
This is fascinating stuff, and I should think this information is quite valuable for the teams individually as well, let alone the people that want to play Football Manager. There's a lot of information that would be useful to them, that they could sort of have, I don't know how it works, but maybe could have packaged up and they would use, as I say, themselves.
Well, you're absolutely right. So there's loads of really, really great stories of professional football clubs sort of buying or tapping into the data that we produce. Probably the most famous example is Everton. A few years ago, we're using the data that's in the Football Manager database, and part of the reason is that it's a really great way to find up and coming players in leagues that aren't very well known. Everybody knows probably everything you need to know about Premier League footballers, even the academies there. There's loads of sort of great information. But sort of finding rough diamonds down in non-league in England, or in some smaller leagues in Europe or South America or Africa, that's where actually the data that we produce is often really valuable for clubs, because you've got people on the ground actually watching these players and researching them, and there's a real framework put in place to stop researchers accidentally or artificially inflating how good somebody is. So you can rely on the data pretty well. So it's definitely useful to a number of professional clubs. Interesting stuff.
But anyway, let's move on, and let's talk about this fantastic challenge you've set yourself, an immense challenge in my eyes, to cycle to all 21 National League South football teams over the next few months. I know you've already started, but can you explain why you're doing it? Why did you decide this, and why are you doing it?
Well, I don't think I've quite figured out why I'm doing it. I think, especially when I'm sort of halfway through one of the cycles. No, so my role as head researcher for National League South is to coordinate all the researches, but to really be involved in that research myself as well. So I do need to go to as many games as I can. So I already have this in where I try to go to every club in the league. Now, a while ago, I think about maybe a few months ago, I was listening to a podcast, the Guardian Football Weekly podcast, and they had a special on sustainability in football. They had a number of guests on there, all talking about how football can be more sustainable. Obviously, we had the Euros where they were split across a number of countries. That sort of adds to the carbon footprint. And it was really interesting. And it really made me think, I don't do a lot, for sustainability. That's why I've got the idea that maybe I should try and sort of cycle to a few of the games. And it kind of sort of snowballed from there where, because I look after the National League South, mm-hmm. There are some clubs that are very far away, but they're all within the south of England. And I figured, it'd be something to try. And as I spoke to, more and more people, including the folks at Football Manager, it became apparent that it was something that a few people thought was quite interesting. And then we hit the point of no return where Football Manager put out an article all about it, and I realised I was actually going to have to cycle through these grounds and sort of planned out how I'm going to get to each of the 21 clubs between the start of the season and the end of the season. So that's really why it started off really looking at doing something for sustainability and snowballed into a bit of a fundraising effort, really.
Yeah. And talking of fundraising, you are doing this for a good cause. So perhaps you'd like to explain the cause. And I assume this is a cause that is close to you.
Yeah. So the cause is Prostate Cancer UK, and they're a very, very worthwhile charity. So first of all, I mean, the statistics are alarming. One man every 45 minutes dies from prostate cancer.
Good grief.
And it's a pretty sobering statistic, especially as over the course of a 90-minute football match, that's two men who've died. So it's something that's really, really important, and I think that's why Prostate Cancer do a lot of work with football leagues and football clubs across the country to really sort of raise awareness. And the money that gets raised and donated to prostate cancer goes towards research, which ultimately is aimed at reducing deaths by increasing the efficacy of treatment. And the reason I chose that charity, as well as that sort of sobering statistic, is sadly my father-in-law passed away from cancer, not prostate cancer, but cancer earlier this year, and it seemed a good cause to tie it into that, because it really sort of brought home just how devastating cancer can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a fantastic cause, and I commend you for doing the challenge. It is quite a challenge as well. And what do your family think of this? Are you having to do a lot of training? I got the impression when I spoke to you on the phone, you're not a cyclist, as in you have been cycling and doing long distance rides for years and years. So what do your family think, and how's the training going?
Well, you're spot on, and I mean, my family, they're very supportive, naturally. They think I'm mad, of course, but yeah, I mean, they think it's a really good effort, and I mean, they've been absolutely fantastic. They're very accommodating. That when I'm doing one of these trips, it pretty much obliterates the weekend. Yeah. Spend all day cycling, and then the next day. Look, I'm not capable of doing much around the house after a long cycle, so they've been absolutely fantastic. My wife and my children have been really good, and my children are very excited. Though the ones that are old enough to to watch the YouTube videos that I create, absolutely love it. So they've been great. And in terms of the training, I mean, definitely not enough training. Every bike ride, I've done 5 so far. Every bike ride, I think, I need to do more training. But I've managed to do it over the last couple of weeks. We've got the big trip coming up to Hungerford Town. That's about 80 miles, just over 80 miles. So there's no way I can do that without some serious training beforehand. So getting on the bike and trying to cycle beforehand is definitely the nature of the game at the moment.
Yeah. Is Bath City the sort of longest cycle ride you're going to have to do? Because I thought that was a long. I mean, it's further than getting to Hungerford. It's got to be another 50 miles on top, surely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is by far and away the longest. Well, I say by far and away. Chippenham Town is pretty long as well, and both of them were towards the end of the season.
Right.
So I started the challenge to go into Ebbsfleet. And the reason I chose that, I was born in Gravesend and Ebbsfleet. They used to be called Gravesend and Northfleet. So now they're Ebbsfleet. So I went there first, and I end on the 7th of May with the trip to Bath City. So I saved the longest for the last. I figured, I'm going to build up some fitness, and that's about 140 miles. Won't be able to do that in one day. So that'll be a 2-day trip, which is going to be a lot of fun. I'm sort of looking forward to it because I figure if it was in a few weeks, I definitely wouldn't be looking forward to it. But I'm hoping by then, I'll have a decent level of fitness, and I'll have learned a little bit about, just simple things, bike maintenance, how to look after yourself while you're cycling, long distances. So that's the longest, and hence it's right at the end of the season, and I'm hoping that by then, we would have raised a really good amount. We're on track to exceed the target, so I'm really looking forward to finishing that off and sending some money to Prostate Cancer UK.
Yeah, and it makes an awful lot of sense. You've obviously planned this quite carefully to think about going to Bath City towards the end of the season, because obviously if you pick a team that's you've got to travel or cycle a long distance in the middle of winter, you'll be cycling in the dark. Because I know you're going to the grounds, I believe, when they've got a home fixture. So I assume you'll watch a game or two when you're there, and so therefore you have got to plan it very carefully to make sure you're cycling, as much as possible in daylight rather than in darkness.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and and I'm certainly going to watch the game. Now, normally it will be a National League South game, but for Hungerford Town, they've I was going to watch the league game. I think it was against Hemel.
That's right.
But they've done really, really well in the FA Cup.
Yes.
So actually, now luckily they were drawn at home, so they'll be playing Bromley in the FA Cup 4th qualifying round.
That's right.
Furthest they've got in the competition for 15 years, I want to say.
That's correct.
And look at that. See, it's a good job I know my stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. But obviously I want to get there for the 3 o'clock fixture, and it's good to get there early, and you have to build in time for things to go wrong, as they frequently have so far. So I will actually be setting off in the dark. So I've bought some new lights, but you're quite right. I want to... I'm going to try and avoid evening fixtures if I can help it, because you want to do the majority of your cycling during the daytime. But I'll be setting off very early next Saturday. I'll be leaving at about sort of 5:30 in the morning, just to give myself that extra time. Yeah, I know. And of course it'll be dark then, but it'll still be a fun trip. But you're right about the winter. I mean, if you're cycling long distances, and what will happen is you'll get really hot. And then when you're watching the game, you'll get very cold. So it's a case of trying to find that balance, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll talk about the Hungerford game in a minute. I'm going to play a piece of music for you. But before I do that, the next question I've got for you is, how do you get back? Is somebody picking you up? Are you going back by train? Are you cycling back? What's the story there?
So it's a bit of a mix, to be perfectly honest. It's a bit of a mix. What we definitely try to avoid is somebody picking me up. That's fine for the challenge, but it kind of defeats the sustainability purpose. But honestly, what normally happens is I'll use public transport, so I'll get on the train. For ones that are a bit closer, for the likes of Tunbridge Angels, London clubs, things like that, I will cycle back, because it's only a couple of hours and it's absolutely fine. By the time you've watched the game, you're ready to go again. But it will normally be a train.
Yeah, I certainly don't blame you for that one, because the last thing you want to do after cycling there and relaxing and watching a game of football is think, oh my goodness me, I've got to get on the bike again, as it were, and get back. So it makes perfect sense to me. Perfect sense to me. Well, there's a few more things I want to talk to you about, and we'll talk about Hungerford Town as well. I know you've got a soft spot for them. And let's have a piece of music. Now, you've picked this track. I'm going to play it for you now. Do you want to make any dedications or anything you'd like to say about the track before you announce it?
So the reason I chose this track is the reason I'm into non-league football, actually. Is a couple of friends of mine, Damon and Simon, they used to run a site called the Real FA Cup, which was all about, it was about the FA Cup, but with a particular focus on the qualifying rounds that don't usually get a lot of coverage.
Right.
Through their passion for that, they got me really into non-league football, and that's why I ended up doing what I'm doing today. So that's how I got into non-league football. And this particular track that we're going to play, I had a lot of jokes with Damon, who often used to mishear some of these lyrics. There's a lyric in here which talks about through my mind she runs, and he always used to mishear it as Mike Sheeran, who was a footballer, quite a classic striker back in the 80s or 90s. So this is a dedication to those two who really got me into non-league football.
Okay, great. So what are we playing then? What are we playing, Ryan?
We're playing Golden Brown by the Stranglers, and this is to the Real FA Cup.
Brilliant stuff. Stay on the line, and I'll be back to you shortly. In the meantime, a great choice, I might say, here to Stranglers and Golden Brown.
Texture like sun lays me down. With my mind she runs throughout the night. No need to fight, never a frown with golden brown. Every time, just like the last, on her ship, tied to the mast, to distant lands, takes both my hands, never a frown with golden brown. Golden brown, fine a temptress. Through the ages she's heading west. From far away, stays for a day. Never a frown with golden brown.
That's the Stranglers and Golden Brown. A fine choice, Ryan, a fine choice. Great band. I saw them live, actually, many, many years ago, before they made it big. And I think that particular track was 80s, but they were around, obviously, in the 70s. I'm talking to Ryan O'Connell, who's taken on an immense challenge to cycle to all of the clubs in the Vanarama National League South. And, Ryan, I think you've done 5 so far, is it? 5, did you say?
Yeah, 5 grounds so far, that's right.
And your next one is Hungerford Town, which, as you said, is next week. They were due to play Hemel Hempstead. They've now got Bromley in the 4th qualifying round of the FA Cup. And I'll be playing, after we've ended the call, Ryan, I'll be playing an interview I had with the gaffer, Danny Robinson, yesterday. I popped along to have a chat with him during training, and he's talking about that game a bit later on. But you'll be there next Saturday to watch the game. What time are you expected to arrive at Hungerford?
Well, I'm hoping to get there around about 2 o'clock, about an hour before the ground is normally when I try to aim for, if everything goes according to plan.
Yeah, brilliant. And hopefully you'll get a warm reception, as I'm sure you do at all the clubs you visit, and people contribute to the charity Prostate Cancer, which is why one of the reasons you're doing this, Prostate Cancer UK. So hopefully you get a lot of support. And as I say, you have been warmly welcomed by the clubs you've visited so far. Yeah,
really. I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic. Particularly, I mean, it's hard to call anyone in particular out, but I think the folks at Eastbourne Borough, Slough Town and Concord Rangers in particular have been fantastic. They've included articles in the programme at Slough Town. They put information up on the electronic scoreboard, and the fans have been brilliant, coming up and donating and talking to me, and often just asking why are you cycling? But so it's been a really, really great experience, and really part of the reason that I just love non-league football. There's a real humanity to the fans and the way these clubs operate. So it's been great.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I know Patrick Chambers very well. He lives in the same village as me, so I know everything both him and his wife do at Hungerford Town, which is a really great community and family type of football club in the non-league, and they do a brilliant job there. And next weekend should be a fantastic event for them. As you say, first time they've reached this particular stage in the FA Cup for 15 years, and a huge payday as well, potentially. If they get through that one, it's going to be a tall order against Bromley, but if they get through, they're in the proper, FA Cup first round with the league teams entering at that stage, and anything could happen. But you've got a bit of a soft spot for Hungerford Town, I think, and in particular, one player who I think you mentioned to me on the phone, Keith Emerson, who is absolutely brilliant at the ripe old age of 38, and he actually scored in the Cirencester game last weekend as well. So what's your sort of soft spot for Hungerford all about?
Well, I think you mentioned it there. They're a real family and community club, and I love the way they engage with their fans on Twitter, on social media. I think they're really good. You can really see they're quite a small club, but there's a real there's a real ambition there, which I think's really good. And it's hard. You try to as head research, you try and remain impartial, but I think because of the way they interact and engage, because they're very ambitious, but they're very they are a small club. I think their hashtag is small but mighty. I think that really encapsulates everything they're doing. And they've got great offers. They have this I love it. This 4 for a score.
That's right.
Promotion where it's what is it? It's a football game, meal deal, a beer and entry. Oh, and a programme.
And a programme. For 20 quid.
All for 20 quid.
Yeah.
And what a great deal that is. So I have developed a soft spot for the whole club, I'd say, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're doing very well. I mean, if they're sort of just above or just below halfway in the table at the moment. They've got a couple of games in hand, and they're not far off a playoff place. So I think they've got a good season ahead of them still. And fingers crossed they do well in the FA Cup next week. As I say, Keith Emerson, 38. I think he's nearly 39 actually. Hope he's not listening. I've probably got his age wrong. Scored their first goal last week in what was a fantastic game. They had to work hard though against Cirencester, but they're through to the cup, and who knows what will happen next. But you'll be looking forward to that game next week, no doubt, and hoping for another cup upset.
Oh, for sure, and maybe even another Keith Emerson goal. I mean, one of the reasons I particularly like him is it was quite unusual. So obviously he transferred to Hungerford last season, and it's unusual for a player of his age to not already exist in the Football Manager database. But despite playing all his career in lower divisions, you'd normally expect him to be in there. But he wasn't there, so I had to create him. And you sort of start with just the basics, what you know, position, age, that kind of little club history. And then as you watch him more and more, you start to build a bit of a picture of what his players are. And I really like him because he proved me wrong. Because obviously you look at his history, and he's played in the lower divisions. You look at his age, you make a number of assumptions, which we normally get pretty accurate, but in this case we got quite wrong about the level he can operate at. And he's come in, he's fit in really well in the National League South. He performs exceptionally well, and kind of really says that he should have been playing at a higher level from a much younger age. So I like him. I like players who prove me wrong. Maybe sometimes prefer the ones who prove me right. But yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. Real warrior in that back line, and bizarrely, like, I think he hadn't scored since 2017. I think he scored 3 times in the last few games, and it's it's like London buses waiting for Keith Emerson goals for sure.
Yeah, I've been to a few games, and every game I've seen him play, he has been immense in defence. His work rate is incredible for a man of his age. He's just absolutely rock solid, and a real credit to Hungerford Town, real credit to himself keeping his fitness up as well. And he's just 150% every game. So let's hope he has a great game again next week, as we do for the rest of the team as well. So final thing from me, Ryan. So if people would like, obviously, hopefully we'll get as many people along to Hungerford Town next week to see you and have a chat with you and hopefully make a donation. But if they can't make it, what's the best way for them to support and make a donation for your challenge, and therefore support Prostate Cancer UK?
Well, we've got a Just Giving page. So if you go to justgiving.com/the cycling researcher, then you'll find the page, and you'll be able to make a donation. You'll also be able to follow the page if you're interested. I do post updates on the Just Giving page so people can see how the cycling challenge is going, and I do post proof and evidence of the cycling trip. So I track everything on an app, so you'll be able to just verify that I am indeed cycling and not cheating by driving to the games.
I hadn't thought of that one. I'm sure everybody trusts you. I'm sure you're not cheating anyway at all. And I think you're doing a fantastic job. And just to let everybody know, we have got a little article on the Four Legs Radio website. There's a post up there, talks about the challenge and Ryan's cycling exploits over the next few months. And there is a link there to the Just Giving page. So if you didn't quite capture it there, if you go to our website on the homepage, you'll see that article, and there is a link to Ryan's Just Giving page where you can make a donation. And on behalf of Four Legs Radio, we will be making a donation as well, Ryan, because this is a fantastic thing you're doing for a great cause. So we'll be supporting you as well. So looking forward to having a chat with you again, which I'd like to do if it's okay with you, either when you've reached the end of your challenge or just before, and to see how you're getting on as far as the target you're looking to achieve. And I think you've got to about 40% of what your target figure is, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right, and really appreciate that, and I'd love to come on and talk to you for sure. We're hoping to raise 2,000. I've only done 5 cycles so far. We're at 40% already, so I can say that we'll definitely be revising that target at some point during the season. So any and all donations very gratefully appreciated, and we really appreciate the support.
Yeah, and good luck. And unfortunately, I can't get to the game next week to meet you in person. That's a real shame, because I'd like to have a chat with you. But we will, if it's all right with you, as I said, catch up with you either towards the end of your challenge or some point in the new year to see how you're getting on, and tell us some stories along the way. I'm sure you'll have some great stories, not only about the cycling, some of the things you may have come across or had to deal with along the way, but also some of the people that have supported you at the various clubs and some of the standout moments for you. I think it'd be good to catch up if that's okay with you. But we will be supporting you, and good luck with all those trips, especially the Bath City one. I might speak to you. I might speak to you the day before you do. That'll be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't do that to you. And good luck. You're doing a fantastic thing, and hopefully you get lots of money coming in for a well-worthy cause. And thank you for your time this morning as well. And enjoy the weekend. Weekend off. You're going to do something. Relax. You're not training this weekend. Please tell me you're not training.
No, I have to do some training, definitely, but it won't be too intensive for sure. So no, and I really appreciate you inviting me on and giving me an opportunity to talk about the challenge and the cause. It's been great. I really look forward to catching up with you maybe a couple of days before the Bath trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I'll do it, a couple of months before that, and then maybe do it again just before the Bath. No, we'll talk about it nearer the time.
Sure.
I'll give you a call later on. Something else I wanted to mention to you, Ryan. So I'll talk to you about that a bit later on. But thank you so much for your time, and have a good weekend, and have a great trip to Hungerford Town next weekend. And let's hope it's a double whammy, and Hungerford Town beat Bromley and get through to the first round proper of the FA Cup.
Absolutely, that'll be amazing. Well, thanks again, and speak to you soon.
Yep. Cheers, Ryan. Bye.